Today we're looking at the AT-ST from Return of the Jedi. This is a model kit that was originally put out probably about 40 years ago by MPC, and it's being re-released this year by Round 2. Now this year we've gotten to look at several of the model kits that Round 2 has re-released from those original Star Wars films. Some of the model kits, like Darth Vader's Advanced TIE Fighter, have been really nice. A couple fixed parts, a much better figure, a new stand for it. The AT-AT was probably my funnest model that I've done this year. Just lots of weathering, lots of chipping it, lots of making it aged. And they fixed this one by putting adjustable and movable legs at all four parts and making a spring instead of a rubber band to go on the adjustable neck. Boba Fett Starfighter, really in the middle of all these builds. A lot of cool painting and a lot of cool effects you get to do on it. The model definitely shows its age, but it was a very fun build. Probably one of the weaker releases was the X-Wing from Return of the Jedi. Just some of the details you don't want to see, like this being a big block here with the cannons kind of being pointed the wrong way. But still a good beginner kit you might do with a family member or just use to make a diorama of some sort. But also from Return of the Jedi, as part of their Snap Kit line, was the B-Wing. And the B-Wing was a very nice model with movable cockpit, movable wings, and a lot of great detail you can bring out with a wash and a little bit of weathering. So I'm really hoping that the AT-ST makes a good companion piece to go next to the AT-AT. And I'm hoping it's kind of done at least as well as the B-Wing, which was also released for the same movie as part of the same line. So I'm hoping it'll be kind of a mix between these two model kits. All right, let's get a look at the box. So first, we've got some really cool artwork here on the front. Really kind of invokes all those vintage packaging. Return of the Jedi, AT-ST. And across the bottom, suitable for the beginning modeler, easy snap together assembly, and molded in color, no cement required. Movable head and weapons. Then on the top of the box, includes a 9x18 double-sided backdrop featuring two full-color Star Wars iconic scenes. So it looks like we have a backdrop for the bunker on Endor and a backdrop of Hoth. So that's kind of cool. We'll get to look at that a little bit later in the video. Along the back, 6 inches tall, 22 parts, and you get some good pictures of the AT-ST. Very retro and vintage-inspired instructions. Looks like a pretty simple build. And of course, some advertisements for their other Star Wars models that are out right now. And here is that 9x18 color picture, double-sided. We're going to look at this at the end of the build once we have the model built. But this was a very nice surprise. I didn't know that this would be in the model kit. And it kind of makes it kind of gives you some exciting ideas for displays. All right, here's our look at the plastic. Looks like when it was originally released, it was probably one sprue and kind of put into two parts now to fit into a smaller box. At first glance, this really looks like it's going to be more along the lines of the X-Wing, which was probably one of the weaker kits that we've looked at on these re-releases. Just a lot of blocky detail. Nothing too delicate. You know, you've got the shapes there, but no real detail. Like you see kind of these raised circles, but no indication of what could be a gear or what could be a cog. Kind of some big blocky details on top of the feet. Nothing to really... It kind of suggests linkage and parts, but no real like hydraulics or gears. That's kind of the closest to a gear you get right there. There's a gear. So some real simplified detail, nothing too exciting. So my first thought is this will probably be another kit that you might do with a family member to practice weathering, to show them how a model works. Well, you know, this would be useful for a diorama if you want to make a scene of an Ewok village or the bunker from Return of the Jedi. But a little lacking in some of the details. But modeling is about what you do with the model. So we're going to build this model up. We're going to weather it. We're going to try and give it a good paint job and see what it looks like when we're done. All right, here is the AT-ST fully assembled. A couple things to note. Yeah, now that I get to see it fully assembled, the detail's more like the X-Wing rather than the B-Wing. We'll have to sand down the seams across the back of his head. Very plain across the back. You see some of the detail just doesn't match up from side to side. And then there's a little bit of hollowness. So we've got a little bit of hollowness right over here on the inside of the leg, and of course hollow feet. So my other build note is this is done as a snap together kit. You will absolutely need to use the cement, and I actually had 3 or more snap parts actually break. So you can see kind of putting the peg into the foot, broke the peg hole on that side, and split it on the other side. So you'll have to use a little bit of cement. I believe I also had a break on the part that holds the hatch in. The hatch does open and close, kind of the same mechanism as in Darth Vader's TIE Fighter. So that opens and closes. You have positionable armaments on the side of the head, and the head does move from back the head does move back and forth. So yeah, not as much detail as you would expect out of a modern kit, but still, we're going to paint it up and weather it and see what it looks like with our neat little diorama background. As we wrap up our build, let's take a look at this backdrop that's included in the box. So this is 9 by 18 inches. And on one side, you have this wonderful picture of the bunker on Endor. On the other side, we have a very nice picture of some AT-ATs on Hoth. And I think this is a wonderful inclusion by Round 2. Round 2 is always trying to add a little something extra, even when it's a re-release of an old kit. So let's take a look at our AT-ST against our new backdrop. And you know, it's a difficult kit to review, especially after I just finished working on the Razor Crest, which is an incredible model kit, super modern, incredible detail, really fun to build. So maybe I just have a little bit of a hang up since I've gone from the most awesome modern kit to something kind of old. But modeling is what you make out of a model. And I think there's going to be a purpose out there for this one. Maybe it is grabbing a model kit like this to just have a fun excuse to use your weathering kit, an afternoon or a weekend project. Or maybe you want to have a diorama where there's an X-Wing taking out an AT-AT. Maybe you want to scratch build a scene and you want to get a couple of these to flesh it all out. I don't think it's going to be a really massive build for a lot of the modelers. I think if you're following this channel, this might not be the model for you, but a fun weekend kit, something to do with the family, something to give away as a gift to get somebody started in modeling. You know, it's something where you do have the movable head, you have the positionable armaments, so maybe somebody starting off in modeling could have a lot of fun setting up a display with this. But, you know, if you take your time, do a pretty cool paint job, you do end up with something fairly respectable. So let's get this guy posed in front of our indoor backdrop. Yeah, that's pretty good looking. As always, I wonder if I over-weathered it. But, you know, Star Wars lived in universe. This thing's probably been crashing around the forest, getting through a ton of branches, getting a lot of paint knocked off, left out in the rain. So I think it's fair to have this guy be really heavily weathered and beat up. So, you know, with that backdrop, pretty cool display. On a tangent, doesn't the AT-ST prove that this is an AT-AT, not an AT-AT? If this is an AT-AT, what is this? An AT-STA? So AT-ST, AT-AT, that's just the way I was raised. But yeah, you know, I'm wondering if this backdrop needs to go with my AT-AT. And I can't really say enough about the AT-AT. I know it's an older kit, just like the AT-ST, but just seems like there's a little bit more detail and positionability and a little bit more involved in the build of the AT-AT. But, you know, that's how they look together. Not a bad combination. They'll look good on a shelf together. And really, that's my look at the AT-ST. I do want to thank everybody. I want to thank Round 2 for sending us these review samples. It really is great that they're getting all of these Star Wars models back out into the market. If you go to hobby stores, once again, the shelves are filled with Star Wars models. These models are even making it out to places like Walmart and some of the big box stores. So the fact that they're getting all of these kits out into the market really is good for the hobby. I know that sometimes they're not the most intricate build that we're looking for, but it's good to have these on the shelves. This is a kit that's probably going to start some people out into the hobby of modeling. So thank you to Round 2 for sending us this review sample. Thank you for everything you're doing with the Star Wars license. Thank you guys for following the videos. Thank you for following the channel. Remember to check out allscaletrek.com. Wonderful sci-fi forums. And we'll be back soon. We're going to be working on a TIE fighter later in the week.